Well, hello folks, I do hope you're well. Right, I'd say to this one now, where am I going to start? Because I don't really know. That said, those that watch me and that have seen me before, many of you that see this video will never have seen me before, I'm pretty sure. Know the way I work. I just talk into that. I don't have any fancy graphics, no music, no editing, nothing like that at all. I don't have a script. I just pick a subject and talk about it. I just run with it and do reasonably well with it. I'm very opinionated. I have an opinion. I tend to stick by it, but I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong and I put my hand up. It's not easy to do, but I do it. I call myself the Britain's grumpiest old git. I am. I knock more people than I praise, but the few that I praise, I really, really praise. I praise those that deserve praise. Those that are crap, I call out. I cover loads and loads and loads of subjects, and I mean loads, more than anyone you'll ever come across. The channel's 15 months old, or something like that. I've done over 3,000 videos. I do loads per day. This will be my last but one out, and it'll be about 8 or 9 for the day. I'm going to cover a subject that's going to upset people. I know it is. Some people will give me a pat on the back, but many will have a right go at me. And I don't want or need any pats on the back whatsoever. I'd rather people not have a go at me, but I know that they will. But what I would suggest is if you're going to have a go at me, watch the whole video first and then decide whether or not to have a go. Because I'm not trying to cause any grief with anybody. I'm not trying to upset anybody. I'm not trying to start any kind of wars. I'm not doing this video for any kind of clickbait, views or anything like that. More of that in a moment. But the way I run this channel is this. I pick subjects about anything and everything and just run with them. I give my opinion. It's an honest, balanced, in my eyes, decent and genuine opinion. I can be moved from it if somebody tells me I'm wrong, but they have to give me a good argument to move me. But I tell the truth. Lots of people that have channels like mine say they tell the truth, and they do. But I say this all the time. They say it up to a point. I tell the truth 100%, and this will be the truth as I see it. I'm going to touch a subject now that was brought up by some YouTube people that I follow in probably late December, early January of this year. I've done a couple of videos about this subject. One of them got watched by a few people, but nothing huge. I'm not doing it for views. I'm doing it because I've seen something over the last sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks that's created an interest, that's made me think about the videos that were put out 5 or 6 months ago, and that I think really, to an extent, needs saying, or maybe not. Maybe that's going a bit hard, because it needs saying. Who am I to decide to say it? No, it doesn't. That needs saying, but just something that I've seen and I've thought, wait a minute, it just shows there's always two sides to every story, and no, not even that. Look, without any further ado, I won't tell you the protagonist behind this at the moment, although some of you will guess. It's all to do with Tenerife. It's a place I visit pretty regularly. I'm going there later this year. I did a video on the back of some other videos a few months ago now, and I did a couple of follow-ups. It upset a few people it didn't, but a few it did. One of them got a few watches, but nothing earth-shattering. I'm a new channel. I've only got sort of 3,000 subscribers, but for that I'm doing brilliant for such a short time, I believe, because nobody ever has pushed my channel. I've never asked anybody to. I nearly never said never wanted to. I want everybody to, but I won't ask people to, and nobody has. A couple have mentioned me, but only a couple in all this time, and that's the way it's gone, and that's fine. But I talk about loads of stuff, and I talked about things to do with Tenerife because it's a place I go, and as it turns out, most of the people within this, let's say fight, it wasn't a fight, are people that I follow. I follow about 10, 12, 15 YouTube channels, and that's all. And a couple of people or more were part of this, let's say for want of a better expression, spat a few months ago. And to that end, as I say, something's happened over the last couple of months that's made me think, wait a minute, how come nobody's picked up on that? Now, I'm sure some people have thought about picking up on it and thought about it, but nobody has. And because nobody has, I'm going to. As I say, I know I'll upset some people, but I'm not doing it to upset. I'm not doing it to hurt anybody. And if anyone wants to have a go at me, they can. I have got broad shoulders and I can take it. And I can take criticism about myself, about the channel. You can criticise my motives, but I promise you, there's no ulterior motive there. There really, really isn't. But you make up your own mind. I've wrote some things down. I never have a script as such. It's all a mess. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's all rough. Number 1, 2, 3, up to about number 8. Can you see it? You can't see it properly, but there's loads of it there. It's all rough. I did it quick earlier. because I don't want to miss anything. That's all it is. So as I say, I'm going to revisit an episode that happened and affected a few relationships a few months ago. But it's to do with some channels that I follow, and I like most of all the people that were involved in this. I like virtually everybody. But as I say, something's happened lately which makes me want to cover it. Where are we up to? Bear with me a second. I think I've done nearly all of this. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, we've done that, so that's done. Fantastic. Right, let me just tell you this. I follow a few channels, and I follow a few channels in that there Tenerife. Anyone that's watching this will be interested in the vloggers within Tenerife. I did a series of the channel was probably 10, 11 months old now. After these videos came out in Tenerife, I did a series of channels that I follow. And just to give you an idea of the ones I follow, I'll tell you who they are, and I'll tell you how many watches they had, so you'll know this isn't based on watches. I am not doing this video for watches, that's not what it's for. And I'll do them in order they come up on my playlist. On my playlist, it's all the channels that I follow. One is Rick and Shelley. It's been watched by 216 people. It's had, I'll tell you what likes it's had as well, and dislikes on all of them. It's had 6 likes. One is Danny Malin, that's Rate My Takeaway. I like my food, unfortunately. I've got a big belly and it shows. Watched by 75 people and 6 likes. Jeff Carter, watched by 89 people and 3 likes. He's been to Tenerife a few times. He's a friend of the Map Master. The Benidorm Enthusiast, watched by 83 people and 3 likes. Scotsman in Tenerife, watched by 98 people and 3 likes. The Map Master, watched by 1,800 people, 32 likes and 3 dislikes. Darren John, watched by 166 people and 10 likes. I did a video about 2 people, Colin from Coles Place and Daz Preston, watched by 70 people, 3 likes. Michael Levy Jr. and the Crackmaster, watched by 35 people. I put 1 dislike here, I think it's, no, 1 like. The Night Strider, watched by 640 people, 35 likes and 1 dislike. Now you'll notice from those there, 2 people were viewed more than anybody else. The biggest of them all, the one that's got the biggest following, is the Map Master. That's been watched by 1,800 people. The reason for that is probably 4 or 5 weeks after I put the video out, I think one of his followers has said somebody's done something on you and it's pretty complimentary, it's worth having a look. And he messaged me and said he watched the video, really enjoyed it, thank you very much. It was about him himself. And he said, if you don't mind, I'll share it on my channel and I'll ask some people to subscribe. You may or may not get it. I said, yep, thank you very much. I never asked for it. He offered it. It went on his channel. It got watched by, it'd only been watched by say 200 at that time. 1,600 more watched, and I think between about 10 and 15 people subscribed. I don't know if any of them are still with me. They can tell me if they see this. If they are, I honestly don't know, but they did because he asked them to, and I was grateful. I also had Cole from Cole's Place come on to me, and he promoted me on his channel again. He didn't have to, but I appreciated it. I think I got 5 or 6 subscribers there. I got less than for the Map Master, but Colin is a smaller channel, which is fine. Throughout all the videos I've done, I think I upset a couple of people. I upset Rick, I think, from Just Rick. And he messaged me a couple of times, a couple of them really, really thorough, which is fine. And I explained to him that I meant no harm, no ill will and whatever else. Within this message, I've been meaning no harm to anybody. And he sort of got it and sort of didn't. Rick's very much like me, does a channel very much like mine. He walks around with the dog and whatever else and does stuff at his home. Obviously spends a lot more time on it, a lot more editing and so on and so forth, but then again, the time he spends on it is per video. I give a lot more output, so we're similar, but he puts more into the editing and the final cut. I don't. But our channels are similar in that we just talk. We talk to folk. His is more in depth than mine and deeper than mine. Mine will incorporate a lot of what he does further down the line, but I've got a different kind of following, if you like, a subscription base at this moment in time. But some of the subjects he does and some of the things he does, I very much want to cover. I've tried something with a Q&A thing, which hasn't really took off yet, but it will. And I've also tried something with an agony aunt section that hasn't took off at all. We've had one person messaging, but that'll work in time. Everything will as the client base, the subscriber base, I don't mean client, that's the wrong word, grows. But he messaged back, and also Daz Preston did a video on myself because of what I'd said, and it's really weird, Daz, if you're watching. I actually watched it again today. It's dead strange. I've been thinking for 2 weeks, do I do this video or not? And then today, as I've got my YouTube on, the video comes on, and I thought, is that the one about me? I'm sure it is. And I watched it from start to finish. Really weird. I did a video where I mentioned Daz, nothing nasty, nothing bad. And in parts he took it okay, but a couple of things disappointed him and upset him a little, and I really didn't mean to. We have spoken since, sort of. I don't think we'd spoke on the phone, did we or not? We definitely spoke by email. We might have spoke on the phone. I think it was only email. But I've said to him at the time, and I said on the video, I think I did a video on YouTube to say I'm sorry if I've upset you, and if we ever meet in Tenerife, I'd love to buy you a pint and have the crack. And he's took up me off and said he will. I hope the same with Rick. I'm over there in September, October, and Rick drinks near where I'm going to stay. So I'm hoping to get a pint with him. We can talk all things YouTube, we can talk this video, other videos, and we can share the... I don't know what... We can chat anyway. He might want to, he might not. If he does, the offer's there, and I'm buying. If he doesn't, no problem. No hard feelings. So yeah, let's get into the guts of this. So that gives you an idea of the people I watch. It gives you an idea of the amount of people that have seen those videos. So it's not a lot. They're all pretty long videos. Some are longer than others. It isn't a lot. I'm not doing this for numbers. I'm really not. But I'm doing it on the back of the video. Now, for those that didn't see it, I mean, I'm not going to fudge names and not mention names. That's how it started out, because everyone knows who was behind everything. Rick from Just Rick did a video. It was about 3 or 4 people that went in a place. He wouldn't say the name of it, but it was a place called Harriet's. He was upset with some of the things they said in there. He thought they were pretty derogatory. They marked it out of 10, which he didn't agree with, and they marked it down. I thought when he was first doing the video, I've said in the past, I agree with him, I got where he's coming from. And as his video went on, I started to think, no, I don't think I do agree. I got a bit 50-50, and then I got probably more on the way of the people that was in the restaurant. I thought, well, you're allowed to mark something. You're allowed to give an opinion if you're honest. And it was weird. I got an idea of who the people were, although I didn't know the place was Harriet's initially. But I'd actually seen a video from the same people, or 2 videos, in the previous 2 days to Rick's video. And they went in one place, again near where I stay, and they were raving about it. They all marked it out of 10, they were raving about it. And I think they're decent people. I think they're just honest. I think they're giving an honest opinion. But Rick's thing is, you don't say things, bad things about, you don't shit where you live, he said. That's what he said. Look, I live here. These are local businesses. They're good businesses. I know the people behind Harriet's, and it's a great place, and you shouldn't say things. And I understood that, and I sort of got that to a great extent. I did. But that said, when I seen the video later, it was about 4 weeks later, I thought, well, they've not said anything bad. Each of them, I think the worst mark they give out of 10 was 6.5 or 7. Every single one of them said I was a bit disappointed, more than they normally would be, but a bit shocked, because we always eat here, we always have our breakfast here, whatever else. They raved about the place. The place is normally brilliant. Today it's not been quite as good, but it wasn't nasty, it wasn't derogatory, I didn't think. And I think at the time, I still have that, there was something behind it with Rick. I'm not going to go into that. I mean, if I said it to his face, this was behind it, he'd say, no, it wasn't. And he'd say that either because it wasn't, or because I think I'm right and it was, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. And I think I know what was behind it, and I may be wrong. But that was his opinion, and you're allowed an opinion. Some of the other fellas that were in the restaurant that day that were reviewed about had their own opinion, and they wasn't happy with certain things, and they're allowed an opinion. Everybody is. And that's getting to the bottom of this. And I know I'm holding it back, folks, and it isn't to keep people on, it isn't to collect money or whatever else, but I want to paint the picture first and build it all up for you, and then tell you the issue that I've had over the last few weeks. And maybe, just maybe, some of you may understand where I'm coming from, but some of you won't. Because the way we are, and I've said in the videos I've done, when we follow these channels and follow these folks, we're blinkered. We can't see past anything. Every single video I did about those people, I said, look, I'm going to say some things in here now. I'm not going to say till the video goes on whether I'm not going to tell you at the outset whether I'm going to be kind to them, unkind, whether I'm going to think they're great or think they're not as great. But I did say I'm never going to be awful to any of them, because I watched them all. If I thought they were crap, I wouldn't watch them. I watch all of them. So if I thought they were crap, I just wouldn't watch them. But there may be some things, because I do an honest appraisal of anything. I'm just doing an appraisal on each of the channels to tell you what I think. You don't have to agree. We can debate it, we can discuss it, we can do whatever else. You don't need to follow up with me. Bearing in mind, if I say 8 or 9 things about a channel that are really brilliant and really bumming them up, and 1 or 2 things that are derogatory, don't focus on the 1 or 2 things, focus on the 8, 9 and 10. But I said, I know what folk do, because I know how we are as Brits. We always look to the negatives, and that's what we do. And that's what a couple of these people from these channels did do. They thought, I'm not happy with that, I'm not happy with that. Forgetting that I've said 8, 9, 10 great things about them, the channel I watched the most of all is probably the person out of all of them that was probably more disappointed with me than anybody else. And I said nothing but good things about the person. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But as I say, that's how weird we are. Anyway, I've gone through all that now. So where are we at? That's number 2. Number 3. Right, just to give you some ideas of numbers, folks. As I say, I've only got 3,000 subscribers. In this last week, my biggest videos are those. I've done one on Clive Tilsley. That's the football commentator from ITV that's recently lost his job. 2,400 watched it. I've done one about a dodgy horse racing tipster. 2,500 watched it. I've done one about Johnny Walker, the guy from Radio 2 that does Sounds of the 70s, my favourite radio programme. 2,600 watched it. I've done one about Nigel Farage. 6,400 watched it, 6,400. I've done one about Giovanni Panici. I think I've said it right. The old Strictly Come Dancer. 4,000 watched it. I don't think, folks, I'm not confident 1,000 will watch this. I think it might, if I'm lucky, between 8 and 1,500, probably no more than that. So I'm not doing this for views. I'm just showing you that to let you know I'm not doing this for views. I'm not a monster channel. I don't get the 30, 40, 50,000 watches that someone like Scotsman in Tenerife may get, or the Night Strider, or certainly the Mapmaster. I don't get them figures, and that's fine. In time as my channel builds, I will, but I'm letting you know I'm not doing this video for numbers, because I don't expect to hit those numbers. And I put a lot less into those videos than I have into this. I put loads more into this because I've actually wrote some things down and I'm reading them. I'm sorry to have to keep looking away, but I don't want to miss anything, because I don't want... You see, the way I worked in my working life was I opened lots of doors, but I always made sure I closed doors behind me. Because if you say something that might upset people, as long as you quantify at the end, the odd person will still be upset. But many people will think, well, he said that, and I won't, but I understand where he's coming from. And I'm hoping many of you understand by the end of it where I'm coming from. Right, that's number 3. Number 4. Yeah, as I've said, I'm just not doing this to cause any grief, to stir anything up, to create any trouble. I'm not jealous of anybody's numbers or anything else. I'm not doing it for the views. I sent a message, this is going off piste a little bit. I sent a message to Col from Col's place. He was in Tenerife in about March. Cheltenham Races was on. Spoke to him a couple of times before he went there. I've had no contact with him since. No problem, it's not a problem at all. I don't need to have contact with him. But whilst he was away, I know he was going away and he wanted to meet up with a lot of people. And a lot of these people involved in Harriet Gate, he wanted to meet some of those, but because things were still a bit raw and things have fractured a little bit, it never happened. I don't think it happened, and he wanted to. He might have met some of them singularly, but he wanted to meet them together, and I don't think it ever happened. But whilst he was away, I sent him a text and I said, hey, when you're there, why don't you go in Night Strider's place? Now, I know a lot of people don't like Andrew. He was a channel I used to watch. I watch less and less now. I won't go into why, but I watch less and less now. Probably not my kind of stuff, but more than that as well. But I said, why don't you go and film in his bar? Now, I wasn't trying to cause any grief there. I think somebody straight away said, well, I think Colin might have thought, wait a minute, he's just trying to cause grief and get me in some trouble. All it is, I'd had 2 or 3 messages in my comment sections under different videos that Night Strider is this, is that. Everyone calls Andrew. Part of his jealousy, I think. But they're saying he doesn't allow anyone to film in his new bar. He's got his new bar and you can't film in there. How could that be? He's filmed all over Tenerife himself. He even goes in bars and asks them to turn the music off because of copyright, turn that off. How on earth can he do that? And I thought the same. 2 different people messaged me that over about 2 weeks, and I thought, maybe he has stopped the vloggers going in his bar. And I thought, well, that's not on. How can he do that when he's been everywhere? So I messaged Colin and said to Colin, why don't you go in there and film in there? I think, and I might be wrong, I think Colin has thought I'm trying to cause some grief. He never messaged me back, said, yes, I will, no, I won't. Never messaged back, never heard anything since. If Colin watches this, and I bet he does, I've no hard feelings towards you, Col, and I'm sure you've not to myself, and you'll probably be back on to tell me that, but you don't need to come back on. But it was weird that I never got a message of Colin. I thought, I'll bet you he's thought I'm trying to cause grief. I'm not. I'm not with this. As I say, when I get to the end, maybe, just maybe, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Everybody. Right, that was number 4. Number 5. Right, just to give you an idea about what I'm going to talk about here. It's about somebody that does food reviews, because it's all about food reviews. It's about Harriet Gate and about what the Macmaster did with a couple of other people in Harriet's, which I don't think he did a lot, but he had an opinion, which I think is fine. He was accused of having an opinion when he probably shouldn't have had, of having an opinion in Tenerife when he probably shouldn't have done, accused of marking it, giving marks for a something which he shouldn't do. These are all things that were said to him. I'm not saying I agree with them, because I don't agree with any of them. And accused of being pretty much derogatory to the restaurant, which again I don't agree with. But the fella I'm going to talk about now is Darren John. That's really the basis of this video. Now Darren, I've seen him done lots and lots of food reviews over the years. I've started watching Darren. I've done a piece about it. As I say, it's been watched by how many people? 166. I watch him a little bit more now than I did before, only because he's got some issues in his life with his job. It isn't going great, and he needs all the views he can get, and he's working harder than ever before, and he's putting loads of videos together, and he's working really hard to pay his way, and I think that's great. So I actually watch a lot of his videos. But I've seen Darren in the Sun Inn about 3 times over the last 3 or 4 years. I've eaten in the Sun Inn. I was in Tenerife last year for 2 weeks. The worst meal I had by a country mile last year was in the Sun Inn. It was awful. I normally like the Sun Inn. It's not brilliant, but it's very good. They do them plate homemade pies, which I love. I love a pie. I absolutely adore a pie. I've seen them all laid out there on the pool table, I think it was, and I thought I'm having some of that in a bit. And they had a large piece of pie. I even had a starter, another piece of pie. I think I had cheese and onion. I like both. I didn't know which to have, so I said I'll have a starter, just cheese and onion pie. Then I'll have the steak pie with the old jockey's whips and some peas and gravy. And it was poor, and I was disappointed. And it was poor, and it isn't normally. I normally like it there, but I thought it was poor. He raves about it. Now, if I'd have been doing a review there, I would have said it was poor. I would tell the truth, because that's what I do. I do it on here, and if I review food, I would tell the truth. And if anybody tells me I shouldn't have been doing that video and shouldn't have, then I would disagree with them. Because if what I do is reviewing food, then I feel you've got to be honest and got to say it. But I think it's poor. He raves about it. I've seen Darren cooking at home, and I thought to myself, I know Darren says he's got a background in food and whatever else and done it for years. I've seen him cook some meals, and I've thought to myself, well, I more have an opinion because I watch the channels, but also because I fancy myself as someone as a cook. I've seen Darren cooking, and I thought, I can cook better than that. He did a soup once, I think, an onion soup. I actually did it. I did it as he did it, but I added some different things, and I thought mine looked better than his, and I bet it tasted better. I loved it. He raves about food. That is a top critic and knows all about food. And I think, well, I think I know every bit as much, and I think because of that, I can have an opinion. But I know he's got loads of devoted followers, and they love him. The same way Rick's got the same as the Night Strider, the same as the Macmaster. Everybody has. And when you say anything about anybody, people jump on your back because they love that one person. But I will say this, listen to what I've got to say about Darren and why I've brought this up, and then tell me I'm wrong. So anyway, as I say, I know Darren's been going through it what with his job of late, because we've seen videos that tell us that. And I know he's put on a second channel, and I know he's putting more hours in, and he's working even harder. And I take my hat off to that. And I think it's great. His videos, as I've said in the video I did about him, are of great quality. The quality is fantastic. He does things with brilliant cameras, great camera work, drones, he does everything, puts loads into it, spends loads of time, and I think it's admirable what he does. But then again, he's not always spot on, he's not always right, because none of us are. I mean, I seen him do the video about 2 or 3 months ago in Tenerife. He had a meal there, and he has it with croquettes, and he calls them croutons. You'd say, well, an easy mistake to make, but he called them croutons about 8 times, and I thought, well, they're croquettes, Darren. You should know that, you're in the food game. And I was surprised, to be honest with you, that he put it out. I thought he would have redone it or wiped it, because I know you can edit, or tried to cut out every bit where he said croutons. I mean, they were potato croquettes, I'm sure they were. If you've not seen the video, go and have a look. But I thought, well, he's not perfect, none of us are. But I went from that, and all that's fine. I've got no problem with him as a person at all. I want him to do well. I want everybody that I follow to do well. But on the back of what I've been seeing over the last few months, what I've seen with Darren as he's doing his videos, I mean, he needs it for work, it's replacing work, and I get it. But what I've seen recently, and it surprises me and it shocks me, and it all comes on the back of what happened over the Christmas New Year period with Harriet Gate. I've seen a lot of Darren's videos lately and I'm thinking, how many more times is he going to knock restaurants? How many more times is he going to knock prices? How many more times is he going to knock the staff? And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, we've gone from Harriet Gate, where a well-known YouTuber who I follow and like has called other YouTubers for giving a bad review of a restaurant, and as I say, I've seen the review, it wasn't that bad at all. And at the end of it, they've all said, we love it in here normally, it's brilliant, we come here for breakfast, we come here, I've said it already, I don't need to say it again. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this vlogger is absolutely best mates with Darren, he's his best mate of all of them, he's closer to Darren I think than any of them. And Darren now has gone down that route, but with jackboots on. He's knocking restaurants left, right and centre. And I'm thinking, well, it's weird. You had Rick, and to a lesser extent, Daz Preston came out and said, you shouldn't be knocking places, you shouldn't knock restaurants. I think Rick said at the time, my nan once taught me, if you've got nothing to say, nothing good to say nothing at all. I thought, well, your best mate, Darren, isn't listening to your nan there, Rick, at all. And Rick might say, well, that's nothing to do with me, what he does. Well, no, it's not in Tenerife. No, it's not. But at the end of the day, he's doing the same as the Matmaster and all those lads were accused of, but much, 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 much worse. And nobody seems to have picked up on it, which I feel strange. Let me just give you a couple of figures because I wrote down, because I've gone pretty anal on this. I've looked at Darren's last 5 videos. Now, Darren, I normally find, gets on most videos between 20 and 30,000 views. Normally between 20 and 30. But the bulk of them, often between 20 and 30. The bulk of them are below 20. In fact, many of them are below 20. I would suggest 8 to 12 or 13 now is the norm. He gets some 20 and he gets a few 20 to 30, so I got that wrong. But 8 to 12, 8 to 14 is normally the norm, I would suggest. Some a little bit more. I looked at the last 5 videos. I went on today and Darren's on site, and I looked at recent videos and I looked at the first five that came up where he wasn't knocking any food or knocking any restaurants. And between them, they averaged 15,000. So I added them all up and they averaged out at 15,000. Okay? Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, the last 2 months, but 2 or 3 weeks in the main, I've looked at 5 reviews where Darren has had a right pop at the food, at the quality of the food, at the restaurant itself, at the service, at the cost. Just to give you some idea, he did one, it's entitled Gloves Off. Gloves Off, that was done 2 days ago, watched by 51,000 people. He did one, Total Rip-Off, 2 months ago, watched by 98,000 people. He did one, Worst Service I've Ever had, 44,000 people. He's seen a precedent here. He did one, £17 for toast, what a rip-off, 60,000 people. He did one, Cheap and Nasty Indian Food, 37,000 people. So that's 5 videos there, 5 videos. You add them all up and the average view there is 58,000 views. That's the average of the 5. Now bear in mind, as you look on his YouTube feed, the last 5 videos he's put out on the Darren John side of things that were just food related but wasn't knocking anybody will come into 15,000. That comes to 58, virtually 4 times it. And I'm thinking, well, he went in really heavy, and all of those videos much, much, much heavier than the Matmaster or anybody else that the Matmaster was with. And I'm thinking, everybody was getting on the Matmaster's back for what I believe wasn't that bad a review. None of these YouTubers have said anything about Darren John. Now some might say, well, it's not in Tenerife. Rick, who did the video, might say, well, it's in London. But I mean, London's Darren's back home, like Tenerife is Rick's home, and I'm thinking, all right, then maybe no one lives in London with Darren to police him. Not that Rick should be policing anything, but do you know where I'm coming from? I'm thinking to myself, everybody said, or many people said, that what the Matmaster did and others was wrong. What Darren's done there is much, 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 much worse. Much worse. I mean, there was one of the videos, I don't remember which one, but I think it was actually in, like a like the big not a big superstore. You know, these places, these centres where you get all shops, and you'll know what I mean. I can't think of the word. It'll come to me. It'll come to you. You know what I mean. He's in one of these places. What was it? Shopping centre. I wrote it down. Shopping centre. And he's calling the food there, I think, saying it's really, really awful. I'm sure he was saying bland, disgusting. It's awful. It's just so bland. I cannot believe it. Blah, 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 blah. Now I'm thinking there was, I think, 2 women that worked there, maybe one guy behind the counter. And I'm thinking, well, this is only one of many food places in that shopping centre. Because it's with a lot of competition, it may not do a lot of business anyway. I'm thinking if that review's watched by lots of people, they could lose loads of custom there. One of that staff or 2 of that staff could lose the jobs because the numbers might fall like a stone. I mean, when all said and done, it was probably watched by 60,000 plus. If many of those people are people that live in London and don't go there anymore and it gets around, how many people may not go there because he said the food was crap and really, really, really bland? Because I watched that about 4 weeks ago, so I can't remember the place and I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure it was about bland food, and he went on and on and on about how bad it was. And I'm thinking someone could lose a job on the back of that. Now the thing that makes me pull this is this. When Rick did his video, about the Harriet Gate, I noticed this in there because I look at comments. As I say, I've done everything folks here. I mean, I've gone a bit deep, but just to give you an idea, this is the comment that Darren gave to his mate Rick after he did the video. This is the comment. He'd done in bold letters, unsubscribed, meaning unsubscribed from Rick. He was only joking, I'm still friends. Rick, how could you say such truthful things? And then I think he's got one of them emojis. I think they're laughing. I don't do them, so I don't know. Then he's got some. Is it praying? That 2 hands up. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I'm kidding. We are very alike. Keyword being in brackets honest. Keep being honest. And then he's on about Rick's wife and the dog and whatever else. And I'm thinking, so that's telling me that you agree with everything he said, and that people shouldn't be knocking restaurants and they shouldn't say things. Because Rick said the Matmaster and the crew were wrong to do what they did, and you were right picking it out, Rick, and being honest. And I'm thinking, well, you thought that when he was calling the Matmaster and the other guys. I know you and the Matmaster are falling out. That's by the by. That's nothing to do with this. But how would you feel if Rick got on to you and said what you're doing is awful? He's really wrong. I don't agree with that. You shouldn't be doing it. And if somebody like Dazu came out and said you're out of order, and others, it'd probably upset you. You'd probably be disappointed. But I think what you're doing is much worse than what they're doing. But that said, it's much worse. It's a lot harsher. I don't disagree with it, because what you're doing is you're giving honest opinions of the restaurants you go into. Let me make that clear. I don't disagree with it. I think you should be allowed to do that. But what I also think, Rick was insinuating people were doing things for clickbait. Well, he put the clickbait up and what it means. He was saying people are saying things about certain places and things for clickbait. That is certainly what you're doing, Darren. Absolutely, certainly. The numbers prove that. I don't mind you calling anywhere out. I think doing what you do, you should be allowed to. But what I will say is this. You start all your videos, or you after Christmas. I researched everything. I go to all the best places. I know where I'm going and this and that and that. One of the places you called in one of those, I think you said, I can't believe I've come here. I normally do a lot of research, or I thought this place was good, or I took a chance on this one today. I've made a mistake on this one. But it's funny, after that one, you've made about 4 more mistakes now. So you've realised making mistakes and going to places that are crap and being able to say it helps your numbers. And I don't mind you get the numbers. You need the revenue because of work, and I get that. But what I'm saying is, you can't be backing somebody against somebody else in Tenerife for putting an honest review up that wasn't really that bad, when your reviews are the same but much, much, much worse. And as I say, on one of them, I honestly believe 1 or 2 young ladies could lose a job. And I think that's even a bit far for yourself, I really do. You know, I mean, one of them's £17 for toast. Well, you must have had a good idea before you went in there. Why go in there? You've only gone in there to let everybody know that in this place toast is 17 quid. Well, I wouldn't pay 17 quid for toast. I wouldn't bother doing it, so why do it? Did I have anything else to do? Because I've done them a bit arse about face here. I think I did, but I don't know. No, I think I've covered it all, really. I think I've covered it all. Yeah, I think I've covered it all. The last bit was the my nan said. If you've got nothing good to say, don't say it at all. That was number 8. But I did that earlier on because it just was apt. But I just think to myself, I don't know that it's right to call folk doing a review in Tenerife because it's in Tenerife, especially when it's not a bad review at all, and then have one of the people that back the review up, because that's what Darren did in his message to Rick in the comment section, go and doing it himself, but doing it much, 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 much worse. I think it's wrong. You know, not to do what Darren's doing. I've got no problem with that, as I've just said, because I don't think people may have understood that early on. But if he agrees that people shouldn't be doing that in Tenerife, you know, and that's the basis of what he put in the message there to Rick, why on earth should he be doing it in London? That's his own back door, you know, his own backyard. He's as Rick says, shitting in his own backyard, isn't it? Isn't it? That's what I think he's doing. So if you didn't agree with the Mapmaster and others doing it in Tenerife, you wouldn't agree with yourself doing it down in that there London. But as I say, you're going all guns blazing. You know, look at that review they did on Harriet's, and then look at any of those 5 reviews of yours that I've just mentioned, and let me know which is the least harsh of all 6. It's the Mapmaster's by an absolute country mile. And this isn't me backing the Mapmaster because you've had falling outs with him, or because he's got more views, or because I've got some subscribers of him. I might not have him anymore, as I say. I honestly don't know. But it's all about pots and kettles. And I brought this up just because I cover everything and cover anything. And I have opinions, and on my channel I have opinions of anything that interests me. The same way that Rick does on his channel. I think it's only me and Rick that do it, to be honest with you. Nobody else does this kind of stuff that we do. And that's basically it. So as I say, if I've offended Darren, I've not meant to at all. If I've offended Mick, or any others I've mentioned, or Darren, or anybody, I've not meant to at all. As I say, I don't need anybody saying, yeah, you're right, and slapping me on the back. I've not done it for any more subscribers, but if you want to jump across, if you want proper honesty, folks, you'll get it here. There'll be many times you don't agree with me, but the great thing with my channel is this, by the way. I've heard some people mention moderators. I think I know what they are, but I'm not sure. I'm only not sure because I don't have them. I'm pretty sure I know what they are. I don't have those kind of folk. I don't wipe any messages here, folks. You can come on my channel and say it, be as nasty as you want to be. That's not me invited to be and to be nasty to me, because what's the point in that? If you think I'm crap and you don't like me, blah, 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 why waste your time with me when you go to somebody that you do like? But if you want to come here and cause grief, you can. I never knock anybody. Nobody gets banned from my channel. No messages get wiped. I have never, ever in 15 months not wiped one message. Not one in 15 months. The only time I've banned anybody, I've banned 2 people. I think it's 2, but it's the same person, I think. They come on here and they abuse other people in my comment section. I won't let anybody abuse anybody that follows me and that comments in my comment section. They can abuse me all they want. I don't want to abuse anybody else. But we're all a little thin-skinned. I can be that way, but I'm not really. I've got broad shoulders and I take it. I think a lot of people on this YouTube are thin-skinned and I'm not. So if you want to say anything to me about the video, you can. Whether it's positive or negative, you can. But bear in mind, folks, I'm not after somebody. I'm not doing this to stir up any war, to get anything going. Some might say, well, why have you brought this up again? It's 6 months old. Well, I brought it up because I want to. I brought it up because I followed it. But I've seen what's happened for the last 2 months with Darren on his channel, and I'm thinking, every week now there's 1 or 2 where he's kicking folk, and I'm thinking, you're allowed to. If the service is as bad as you say, or the food, or the staff, then fine. But why is nobody saying to him, well, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that? Because people were saying it in Tenerife, and I'm thinking, why is he doing it when he was saying the person pulling it up in Tenerife, so the person who did the review on Harriet's, why is he saying to that person, you're writing what you say, you're honest, you're honest, you're honest? Seems strange. Seems strange. You know what I'd like? I'd love 20 or 30 of Darren's proper followers saying, we don't mind him doing what he's doing when he gives negative reviews, but we do agree with you, we understand where you're coming from. I'd love that. It won't happen. The ones that love Darren and probably Rick will be the ones that'll jump on me back and try to batter me, but I can take it. As I say, I'm out there later this year. I'm hoping to have a pipe with Rick. If he's open to it, then great. We can chat YouTube and everything else, and this and everything else. And if you don't want to, fine, I'm not going to fall out with anybody. I don't fall out with folk. I just say what I see, what I think, and it comes out of here. I think of it in here, and it comes out of here. Don't do it to upset or offend anybody, but sometimes, with honesty, people do get upset or offended.
If they do, I'm sorry. But I don't know. I don't like pots and kettles. I don't think one should call the other. You know, the old he who cast the first stone and all that. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'll leave it with you. It's been a bit longer than I wanted it to be. I hope some have got to the end. For those that got to the end, whether you're going to call me or not, just put the end. Let me know you got to the end. It'd be great to know that some of you did.